Hello everyone and welcome back. We are now on part 2 of the Definitive Wrestling Toy Belt Collection, and today we are going to be doing parts 7 through 14, and these are labelled the Unique Championships. These are championships that didn't have other variations and didn't really fit in anywhere else. So first of all we have the three 3D title belts, which were sort of kid versions that were just released in 1999, I believe, by Jakks. And the first of which we are going to look at is Undertaker. All three of these belts were released at the same time. So Undertaker never had his own championship. Stone Cold had a Smoking Skull title. The Rock had a Brahma Bull title, but it was never shown on TV. And of course, John Cena had the US Spinner. He also had the WWE Spinner. Edge had a Rated R Spinner. So a few wrestlers have had their own unique championships, their own variants. But the legendary Undertaker, the dead man, never ever did. But if he did, then this is a representation of what they thought it might have been like. So, as you can see here, this is the WWF logo. It's not the WWE one. Now, this belt is actually quite difficult to come by. It was made in 1999. There was quite a decent amount made of them, but people just weren't interested in it because it wasn't an official title belt. So if you can get your hands on one, it is slightly valuable, I would say. So let's take a look at the back. So this is the typical early version of the Jakks, where this is a sort of, it's like a kind of plasticky, almost rubber. As you can see, this one's got a little bit of damage here, but not all my belts are in the highest condition, the best conditions. But as long as I've got one of each, that was all that I cared about as a collector. So you can see here, 1999, Jakks Pacific Incorporated, with the World Wrestling Federation Entertainment, and all rights reserved, and made in China. So this was it was mass distributed. It wasn't an event exclusive. It was available in stores. And yes, this is the 3D Undertaker Championship. So let us move on to number 8. Which is the 3D Rock Belt. As I said, the Rock did have a Brahma Bull title, but it didn't look anything like this. It was made, it was just never shown on TV. It's like they just changed their mind backstage and thought, no, Rock, don't go out with that, just go out with the regular World Championship. But there are photographs of it, it does exist. You can get images of it. And once again, this is the WWF logo. This is back when it was still the World Wrestling Federation, before World Wrestling Federation lost a lawsuit to the World Wildlife Fund, which, in fairness, the World Wildlife Fund had been around for a long time before the World Wrestling Federation, and World Wrestling Federation dropped the F and became the World Wrestling Entertainment. So, as you can see, it says The Rock, People's Champ, trademark on Rock for some strange reason, and once again, all these 3D belts, very similar on the back. It has this little effect here around the sides to make it look like a sort of official leather belt. Of course it's not, this is a sort of the generic plastic kind of rubber. It's nice, smooth, it's got a softness to it. Yeah, you're going to see this kind of Jakks style of belt quite a lot. So that is number 8, I believe. And number 9 is the Stone Cold Belt, also known as the Rattlesnake Belt, because it's not like the Smoking Skull one. This has a big rattlesnake on the front of him. Obviously, Stone Cold had a few different names. The Rattlesnake was one of them. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Austin 316, and he had so many different things associated with him. So this one, it obviously went with the 316 logo, which was when Stone Cold won the King of the Ring. He was in a feud with Jake the Snake Roberts, and he was quoting the Bible because that's what Jake the Snake Robert was on at the moment, at that time. And he was saying, you say you're John 316s, well Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. And that is where the 316 came from. That's the origin of that. So as you can see, they've still went with the skull and, of course, the snake. Quite plain around the sides. It's almost like they didn't really know what to do with this space here. It's got the barbed wire, it's got the big snake on it, the big snake, big 3D logo of him, comes right up. And once again, the back is very similar. So all three of these belts, the 3D belts, they're quite hard to come by. Undertaker's the hardest one, followed by The Rock, and the most common one is the Smoke and Skull one, or the Rattlesnake Belt even. But all three of them fairly valuable, just difficult to get hold of, especially in good condition, which all of mine have little tiny bits that are wrong with them. So on to number 10, which is the European Championship. And this one is the WWF logo. So this is the European Championship. It's no longer available. It's no longer on TV. It was discontinued. But the European Championship was sort of a belt that came before or underneath the Intercontinental Championship. So the Intercontinental Championship was what primed people for being world champion. European Championship was kind of a mid-card title. So that was what that was about. But obviously when WWF or WWE formed with WCW, it took over WCW, they started discontinuing some of the lower ranked belts. And that's what this was about. But the European Championship is a very, very nice belt. I always liked it. Held by people like X-Pac and such. So you can see here, it's got the wrestlers wrestling on the sides, big globe in the centre, says European Championship, got all the different flags representing Europe, and on the sides here it's the same, I think it's the same, no it's not actually, these are actually different parts from what's on the main title here. So this one's in very good condition. This is actually a belt that I owned in my own collection for many, many years. I got this back in the day, which is why it's in such nice condition. And this was 2001 Jakks Pacific, and this one says Titan Sports rather than World Wrestling Federation Entertainment. So a little bit of a difference there. Again, made in China, and once again, this was widely available in shops. It wasn't an online exclusive, just your basic version of the WWF Championship. Now, the next one, I'm going to do a little comparison, because number 11 is the European Championship, but this one was a re-release, and this doesn't have the F logo on it. Now, this one isn't in quite as good condition. Wasn't owned by me, it was owned by someone else, of course. It's just one that I've picked up for my collection. So the difference between this is, you can see here that it says World Wrestling Federation across here. This one, they've actually had to change the plate and it says World Wrestling Entertainment. And obviously it's missing the F's here. You can see that there's a space here where the F was supposed to be. And this one, as it was a much later release, you can see it still says 2001, but actually I think this was released around 2006. I think they just used the same back area, because you can see here that the actual area around the outside of the belt seems the same, and I think that's just what they've reused, but they've made the new plate and re-released that. There was a point in 2006 where they went back and started re-releasing old belts, and obviously in order to do that they had to use the E logo, not the F logo. So that was the origin of those. And now we are into the $1 Million Championship, of course, held by the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. So the origin of this belt is Andre the Giant. Oh, I moved the camera. Andre the Giant won the title off of Hulk Hogan and then sold the title to Ted DiBiase for $1 million. And Jack Tunney, he reversed the decision and said that the title was now up for grabs, and they held a tournament to decide who would be the new champion, which was won by Randy Orton, I believe. But Ted DiBiase spent $1 million creating this belt called the $1 Million Championship, and it went around for quite a while. It was mainly owned by Ted DiBiase, very early put it on the line, and later owned by the ringmaster, Steve Austin, before it became Stone Cold, when he was still being mentored by Ted DiBiase. So, and then in much, much later times, it was brought back by Ted DiBiase Jr., the son of Ted DiBiase, and hasn't really been seen since. So, this is obviously a very unique belt. It has all these big dollar signs across it. This one very difficult to come by in good condition. This is another one of those belts that I've owned in my own personal collection. I bought it back in 2005, kept it in nice, relatively nice condition. As you can see, even though it was kept by a collector, still has some wear and tear markings on it. And this was literally just kept basically in a cupboard for a long time. But as you can see, it's generally quite good condition. It's a very, very cool belt. One of my personal favourites. It's just such a unique design. Obviously, it's just all about money. It's just the dollar belts all around. These were supposedly, according to kayfabe, supposed to be zirconian diamonds along the entire front of it, which is what made the belt worth $1 million. But in reality, I think it would cost them something like 15,000 or something like that to make it. It was in one of the wrestling documentaries that you can see on the wrestling network, the WWF network. So that was the $1 million championship, and we are on to number 13, which is the Hardcore Championship. The Hardcore Championship, of course, was debuted to try and compete with ECW back in the day. I think it was first won by Big Boss Man. It was generally associated with Mick Foley, and then there was an entire hardcore division, which was Steve Blackman, Al Snow, Hardcore Holly, who used to be Bob Holly, changed the name to Hardcore Holly. Now, the rumour was that this was the belt that had been destroyed with a hammer. It wasn't completely new belt, they just made the entire thing, but they obviously designed it to look that way. It's obviously the Winged Eagle belt with the tape across the front of it that just says Hardcore and Champion. Now, getting this in good condition, very difficult to come by. Slightly rare belt. It was widely available. It was in shops, but this is one of the ones that, again, that I owned back from my youth. You can see it says Made in China, World Wrestling Entertainment, 2005, Jakks Pacific, and of course uses all the same parts. So once again, the same kind of fake pretending to be leather aesthetic look that Jakks Pacific is known for. And this here is the Hardcore Championship. So there is a bit of information for that from you. And then we are on to the 24/7 Championship, which is our first event belt. I say event. So you can, this isn't available in shops. The ways to get this are you either get it off of the WWE website, or you attend a live show and you can buy this, or you can basically get it most places online. But it wasn't meant for retail, it was meant for event venues, and that's what an event exclusive means. So even though I didn't go to an event to get this, I did get it off of the official website, off of weshop.net. And yes, let's look at it. So this is the only belt that isn't plastic, it's almost entirely fabric. Has this gold covering here, which is supposed to represent the belt. You can see it's this green kind of foam kind of outlook. Has these gold parts here. Nothing on these, completely blank. And there is almost nothing written on it. Has the WWE logo across the sides here, on both sides, and that is what it looks like. If I'm honest, not one of their best designs. I would prefer a sort of hard plastic of the plates, at least. This foam thing, it's very strange. This one feels like it's more designed to let small children use, so that it's nice and soft and there's no hard parts that they could injure. And it's like, what a waste. And this is the only representation of the 24/7 Championship, other than the official, actual, proper title belts. But we're not including them, because if we were going to go over all the belts, we would be here for literally decades. But this is just the wrestling toy collection. So this is number 14 on our list. Of course, the 24/7 Championship, mostly associated with R-Truth, who has held it a ridiculous number of times. I can't even think what it is, whether it's 70 or 80 or 150 times that he's won the belt by this point. But it's made the belt have almost no meaning whatsoever. It was supposed to be designed to be like 24/7, the Hardcore Championship, which was for a while 24/7, but it's really become more of a joke, and it's quite unfortunate. And it was debuted lovely by Mick Foley, which is a real shame because he's a hardcore legend and he was above doing this. It's still a nice belt. It's not the best. It's not. It might be the worst. I'm having trouble trying to think of a belt that's worse than this, but it's okay for what it is. But I mean, the thing is, if you're getting this, be aware of what you're getting. It's just fabric. There's no plastic parts. I've heard rumours that there is one that you could get that has a plastic part on the front of it. There isn't. That's just fake. There's no such thing. I've not even seen any customs or anything like this. So that is that. So that brings us to the end of the Unique Championships. The next ones we're going to go over are the ECW Championships, which was the Eastern Coast Championship, which renamed itself into Extreme Championship Wrestling. And we will see you again very soon for that. And we'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.